welcome back, guys. So we are at Gencon 2019 for the Keyforge Vault Tour. I am Brook Robinson, and I'm here with
Alex Watkins. Hello, and we are back for round 3. The players are just getting ready. We have Bentley here playing against Brooks, and we've had a quick skim of the deck list. They're shuffling up to go, so we'll repeat this quite quickly. But Brooks is running Bamford, the Aeronaut of Pike, which came second at the Denver Vault Tour. Won all 3 games in the adaptive final, so it's a pretty solid deck. And on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, Bentley is playing Chromajoin, the Crackpot Fanatic, which is net to have an official result put in. So it may well be a great deck, but he's not played it at Chainbound, he's not played it at a Vault Tour or anything yet. So it's a bit of an unknown stats-wise. It could be just as good, just hasn't been brought out yet.
maybe he's just been keeping it tucked away as his secret weapon for
Absolutely.
Gencon, for the best 4 days in gaming.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Bamford, the one that we know is a solid deck. You called it out already on the Untamed cards that it has, Full Moon and Hunting Witch, and then a ton of creatures, Murmooks, Taliga, I know a creature you like, Snufflegator, Bitwig.
So it's got a bunch of creatures in it, and it also has a full moon.
Yeah,
so that's going to be
and the Hunting Witch is going to give all the ways to generate amber just by doing stuff you do anyway. So let's see what happens with that deck. And he's off for the start with a Snufflegator out of that deck there on the right from Brooks.
So both of the decks have Untamed and Shadows in them, but then what sets them apart is Brooks also has Dis, whereas Bentley has Sanctum. So while they are similar, we also have the ethereal versus the demonic. So it's going to be a very fun match.
Yep, and then we see Bentley there leading out with 2 special deliveries, an Umbra and an Urchin. So there is some saved damage for later, like potentially purge creatures if it destroys it, and he's got some steel and some fight steel coming up later. So pretty solid shadow start there for him. Quickly deals with the Snufflegator as well.
So the art for special delivery was actually done by our very own Preston Stone. He's very proud of that. Whenever we have like announcements go up around the office for birthdays, we always use special delivery.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I'm guessing we missed it. Probably turn 1 was special delivery, so we had it ready to pop straight away to get rid of the Snufflegator. It is an Omni ability. Missed some amber from playing his special delivery. Good that they've caught that. Good communication from players once again. So we say they've got a lot of the same houses here, but slightly different setups. I mean, Brooks has 2 booby traps and a ghostly hand, hidden stash, relentless whispers. So some good solid steel and a double shadow self. Whereas over on Bentley's side, it's a bait and switch, or they both have bait and switch. Nerve blast, too much protect, master plan, safe place, seeker needle, a couple of special deliveries, and the Nexus Umbra Urchin, which you quite often see at the bottom of the list there from the Call of the Archon decks. And it looks like he's come out there with, on the right there, I think that is a Nexus, is it? A Nexus and an Umbra. So Nexus, then you use your opponent's artifacts, so you're going to look to use that special delivery. So I think Bentley will be wanting to, it's an Omni ability, so he can pop that. Yeah, he's going to pop it. Doesn't want to have it used by his opponent, purge away his Nexus there after putting down the Champion of Anaphael. Sorry, Champion Anaphael. He's got 3 knights in his deck and a round table, so not the big count for the round table, but those 3 knights, Champion Anaphael, and Lady Maxina. So pretty solid knights, although round table granting taunt to a creature already with taunt isn't that impressive, but still a useful artifact to have around.
But while Brooks may not have Sanctum in his deck, he is going to be getting a little protection as well from those shadow selves to keep his fellow creatures safe.
Yeah, and 2 of them. That's we don't see a huge number of decks for 2 shadow selves in. Really useful way to protect it. He's got a Mac the Knife, which is a real utility creature. And in his Dis, he's got a Pit Demon, a Dust Imp, Shaffle, Shula, Snudge, Steel of Souls, and a Succubus. So he's got a lot of different Dis creatures. So I think he's got quite a lot of board presence here from Brooks. All right, and that was a Way of the Wolf, I believe, over on Bentley's side. So that gives a creature Skirmish. So he's got a Taunt, Skirmish, Knight. And down comes Witch of the Eye, a great way to bring things back from the discard pile. It's a common thing a lot of us use who play Magic is you see the witches, burn the witch. Most of the witches, you don't want to let them hang around more than absolutely necessary. They tend to have great abilities, such as bringing things back. And on the other side of the board, we've got the Hunting Witch, which is going to generate Amber. So they're both very, very powerful cards. So Brook's looking at his options here. Looks like he's got a couple of Mermooks in his hand. I think that might be Ritual of Balance in his hand as well, potentially. Can't quite make it out. He's moving his cards around a fair bit. Possibly a Lost in the Woods in there as well. He's gone with Shadows. Skirmish, deal some damage, steal. There's Mac the Knife. So I think he might be setting up for a Untamed turn, getting Mac the Knife down first, because he can use it on Untamed turn as well. And he just kept Bentley off check there as well. Nothing too big, just enough to keep him off check.
And there's never really a bad time with the knife.
No. I think getting him down sooner is much better than later. All right, there's a Nexus of his own there for Bentley. And I think that is a Skeleton Key he also put down there. So quite a lot of artifacts in Bentley's deck. So quite good that he managed to purge his opponent's Nexus, knowing full well that he's got a lot of targets that Nexuses want to eat up and use. So getting that special delivery onto the Nexus early means he doesn't have to worry too much about that now. So there's a hand there. Looks like we've got, I think there was a Life Ward as well in Brooks' hands. It's a Mermook. So Mermooks are good to apply pressure, make opponent's keys cost more. Oh, it's a Hunting
I'm just
Witch.
amazed by both yours and Evan's ability to just like get a quick flash of like half a card in someone's hand, being like, oh yes, they have this.
Well, I have to admit, I'm better at it with Call of the Archons, because like most players, I've seen more of Call of the Archons. I'm catching up with Age of Ascension. But yeah, 2 Marmnukes and a Hunting Witch there. He may be trying to save that to get the full moon effect as well, knowing that he doesn't. If he can play out a Dis turn, which I know he's doing another Shadows turn, that's interesting. I don't think he's got any Shadow cards in his hand. He's just keeping his opponent off check by stealing. Yeah, this is real tempo play. You saw the chat talking about it. This is, I've got all these cool things in my hand. Now is not the right time to play them. These 2 guys on the board are going to do the work for me until I have to commit further resources.
Which is why Brooks is participating in this tournament and I am not, because I never have the patience for that.
So that's a master plan down there for Bentley. So he gets to put something underneath it, and as an Omni, he can play it and sacrifice master plan. But no, tournament play, I like to play quickly. It's my style as well. So I'd be too tempted. If I was Brooks, I'd have probably gone Dis last turn, get those out, hope to draw some more Untamed stuff to really go off with the Hunting Witch. But if he doesn't need to, that's a much more sensible play. He's got enough steel on the board, he can just control it.
Oh, and there goes the Hunting Witch and
so there we
Mermook.
go. And then the other Mermook.
And the other Mermook.
And making sure he gets some value out of that Hunting Witch before it inevitably gets removed. You don't tend to see them around too much. And Mac the Knife coming in, dealing 1 damage and stealing. And he's going to let his opponent forge, but he's left himself with 8. So he hasn't turned his key token over. Let's see if we can get someone maybe to remind him so that, oh, there you go. In fact, his opponent has done it for him. What a gentleman. I'd say both players are responsible for maintaining game state, so it is both players' duty to ensure that the game state is accurate. It's great to see that in action there. So that too much to protect down there. Steal all but 6. So he's got a couple of amber off his opponent there. Then he's got Nexus capturing some. That's a Skeleton Key at work there. So he's doing a good job, Bentley, here of just keeping his opponent from forging. Just staying a couple of steps ahead each time.
Well, it may be tempting to let your opponent gain some ground in the early game, thinking, oh, yes, I can stop them later. Sometimes that is just not the right call, especially not at this,
if you can get
at this level of gameplay.
I think you're right, and these lists, I mean, we both kind of point out a few different things in there, and we talked a bit about tempo last round, but staying ahead is just as important as winning. Like, essentially, if you just stay ahead, you are going to win the game. That is a fundamental thing that's kind of accepted by most players, is you can rush and rush and rush and do as much as you possibly can, but the opponent may have an answer. If you're just creeping along, staying ahead, bait out those answers when they're non-optimal, then you're eventually just going to grind your way there. Unless, of course, your deck is designed to go full speed like we saw in round one, and when you're going to play that deck that way, that's how you're going to do it. So that looks like it was a board wipe there. What am I missing there? Let's see what got played. Amber being exchanged around. And what looks like a Pit Demon left. Okay. But that's 12 Amber on Brooks' side. I have to admit, I missed the card that did that.
I'm afraid I did as well. Chat, can you give us a hand?
Someone help us. We missed what happened.
Tendrils? What?
Tendrils of Pain. Deal 1 damage to each creature. Deal additional 3 if your opponent forged a key that turn. So that might have been it. That might have been the destruction there. Dealing 4 damage across the board. And now he is not only forged his first key, he's ahead on Amber. He's ready to forge his second. That is a tempo swing right there. That's gone from one way to the other. Now suddenly Brooks looking like he's in a very manageable situation. And a good look at his discard pile.
Also, he's got those very cool Vault Tour metal keys.
He has, yep, the Vault Tour metal keys that you can get on the prize wall here today. And it's sort of a edited version of the ones we've seen in store. Oh gosh. And now he's applying the pressure. That's a Succubus.
And a Schuler.
A Schuler. What looks to me like potentially a Dust Imp there. Maybe.
No, that's not Dust Imp. Oh, who is that one?
Oh,
like
is that Shaffles?
Yeah, I think
it's
you're
Shaffles
right.
there.
Yeah.
So your opponent's losing one at the end of the turn. They're not drawing as many cards. Wow, that is a big pressure play. And that Schuler choking him out a little bit. And I have a feeling he might have played Control the week before that. Oh, he definitely played a Life Ward, so his opponent couldn't play any creatures. So he put a big board state down. Life Ward, very powerful card. Oh, and now he's just going to put all 3 artifacts into his opponent's. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's Grasping Vines. Those 3 artifacts back up into his opponent's hand. What else he got? He's now just regroved the Hunting Witch to his hand. And here comes, I think that's Bitwig.
Yep.
I assume, and that puts him on 5, and that is a horrifically terrifying board state now. That has been a huge swing in favor. I had Bentley a couple of steps ahead, but now it's complete opposite. He's on the ropes. Let's see if we can see what's in his hand. It looks like he's got all his artifacts that just got returned. He's not showing us a huge amount. Maybe he's got some reply here. He's gonna. Oh, that's an untamed card. That
Lost in the Woods.
Lost in the Woods will choose 2 friendly creatures and 2 of your enemy's creatures, shuffle into the deck. So yeah, that is what it is. He's followed that up with a Dew Fairy. He has 2 of them in the deck, and looks like that's all he could do. Is he put a Ritual of the Hunt down there as well? I think.
Yes.
So that'll allow him to pop that at some point to use all his untamed creatures, even if it's not an untamed turn. And that looks like it was a Relentless Whispers to just remove the dust.
And bring
Shadow
out
Self.
both Shadow Selves.
Gains an amber for each of them. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 amber. Opponent just has a Ritual of Balancing board, and yep, that's it. That was just, wow. That was almost a rope-a-dope. He was sat back a little bit, let his opponent get a little bit ahead. And
that
then,
was just a quick-fire game, man.
Well, I think what you got there is that's showing a skillful player. He's done a lot of things I wouldn't have done. He held on to the Hunting Witch, waited a couple of turns longer than I would have done, and just lent on Mac and the Urchin to do the work for him, so the Umbra to do the work for him. They're 2 cards that can do some stealing in the right situation. Especially with Umbra with Skirmish, he can fight in, deal 2 damage with the Skirmish, not lose his Umbra. If it's a 3-power creature, Matt can just deal 1, kill it, steal another one. So he was able to just utilize 2 creatures, nothing in his hand, for 2 full turns, while his opponent was dealing answers. Eventually he's going to run out, and then came the full assault with all the untamed creatures.
And it's very clear that he's very familiar with this deck. It's probably one of his favorites.
I would say so. It's 15-1 in competitive play.
Yeah.
And I think that says it. And when we know that that 1 was actually the adaptive final, where technically that deck won all 3 games, even though he lost as a player, you could argue it's an unbeaten deck in tournament play, which is something quite impressive. It really is. So that brings us to the end of round 3. There is a lunch break for the players now, I believe. We have 30 minutes or so to go find some food in the madness that is Gencon. I personally would need more than 30 minutes to find some decent food here. But they're going to take a break. In the meantime, I think I'm going to grab Josh, and we're going to play some more Worlds Collide with a couple of decks that we played yesterday. One of them you probably haven't seen on the stream yet. So we're going to have some fun with that. So keep tuned in. We'll be back with that in a minute.